On this edition of the program, is the Texas Democrats' effort to stop the redistricting plan that they can't stop by leaving the state smart? No, but I'll explain why. Kirk Bado joins the show to talk about that, the biggest stories that he believes will dominate the rest of the year. We look back on the campaign books of 2024 now that they have stopped, and look ahead to the reputation management books of Kamala Harris, Karine Jean-Pierre, and Joe Biden. Great, nutritious, fantastic episode. It's all coming up.
The following is brought to you by Just Another Pilot.
Hello and welcome everybody to the Politics program for August 6th, 2025. Your old pal Justin Robert Young joining you from Austin, Texas. Great show for you today. We're going to have Kirk Bado on. I want to kind of wrap up our conversation about the campaign books. I want to talk about that crazy Kamala Harris, Mark Halperin, possible satire leak, quote unquote, of her book, what we're looking forward to, what we believe the biggest stories are going to be for the rest of the year. It's always a good hang with Kirk. And the Steelers just released their depth chart. So I'll do my best to save most of the Steelers conversation until the end of the program. Before we begin, though, I got something that is close to home, quite literally. The Texas State House is not but a 12-minute drive from my house, and currently I'm a lot closer to it than many of the Texas Democrats. They are not in the state right now. Some are in Chicago, some are in New York, some are, well, who knows where. The reason why is because they are trying to hold up a vote on redistricting. We've talked about it in the past, last week when this map was unveiled, but Texas is going to go through with it, and it will likely add 5 seats to the midterm totals of the Republicans. This could be the difference between Speaker Hakeem Jeffries and Speaker Mike Johnson. And what I want to do right now is set aside a lot of the conversation around it for the moment. I'm not saying it's not important. I just saying I want to focus on something else. So let's not focus on whether or not redistricting is fair or not. Let's not focus on whether Illinois or New York or California or New Jersey are going to try to redistrict themselves. Let's not focus on whether or not there's even more Republican seats that are going to be gerrymandered in either Florida or Iowa. Instead, I only want to focus on the Texas Democrats. I only want to focus on what their plan is and how they best hope to continue to build their influence in this state. Let's remind everybody that the idea of a blue Texas at any level is a bonus for the Democrats' national map. If they can snare a Senate seat, if they can snare a governorship, hell, if they could turn Texas blue in a presidential race, this would be something that would fundamentally change the map. It would make it very, very hard for Republicans to win the White House. And even if you can't do that, making this close is very important for the party because you got to set its seat up right now. You theoretically could have a very weak Republican if it's Ken Paxton running for that seat. That's going to require a lot of money And Texas is a very expensive state to run statewide because you've got multiple massive media markets. Dallas, expensive as hell. Houston, expensive as hell. San Antonio, expensive as hell. And Austin, for a mid-sized city, pretty damn expensive. You want Republicans to have to spend the money in those markets. And the only way you do it is if you poll close enough to the point where Republicans care to do it. If they think that you are just a total joke, they're not going to spend the kind of money that they would otherwise. It is my opinion that what the Texas Democrats are doing right now is feckless, useless, and dare I say counterproductive. You are not making new voters in this state. You are not furthering your ability to have any kind of say in this process. And what's worst is that you are eroding your faith in Texas Democratic voters, liberals in Texas, that you are going to fight for them. This is all sizzle and no steak, or to put it in the parlance of this particular state, all hat and no cattle. If there's one thing that you need to know about Texas, and I've been around here enough, even before I lived here, I visited Texas a lot. I was technically born in Fort Worth for whatever that imbues me, is that Texas doesn't think of itself like the South. It does not think of itself, in many ways, a part of America. It thinks of itself as Texas. Texas is as Texas does. Any business that needs to be handled can be handled within the confines of the Lone Star State. So what does it mean when you literally leave to another state? It means that you can't stand and deliver. It means that you can't have a fight for your constituents in your home turf. Many of you might remember that the Texas Democrats did this before, back in 2021, and I wanted to make sure that I got these stats exactly, so I'm going to read them for you. 2021, Texas Democrats left to Washington, D.C. to protest a new voting rights bill. Since then, none of those restrictions have been reversed in any meaningful way in the intervening 4 years. Republicans have increased their state house majority. Democratic coalition inside the Texas State House had defections. It did get high national support, but nothing was done. In fact, they went backwards in their meager hold of the Texas State House. They went the opposite direction. They lost seats. So, Justin, you're so brazen, you're so smart, you're so bold. What a barking dog on the internet. Do you have any plans? Any things that you do different? Funny enough, I actually do. So imagine this. Imagine that these Texas Democrats, oh so mad they are, about 50 of them, instead of hopping on planes so they can go to, of all places, Illinois, one of the most gerrymandered states in the country. Instead of doing that, they spent the last 72 hours barnstorming the neighborhoods that are about to go from being represented by Democrats to Republicans. These are neighborhoods in liberal areas, areas that vote blue, areas that largely voted for Kamala Harris, that largely voted for Colin Allred. What if, instead of going to Albany, they went in Austin to East Austin, Pflugerville, Manor. In Dallas and Fort Worth, they went to Frisco, Plano, Allen, McKinney, Irving, Farmers Branch. In Houston, they went to East Houston, 5th Ward, Sunnyside, Sharpstown, South Park, and on the Rio Grande Valley, they went to McAllen, Mission, and Harlingen. What if in all of those areas, which are areas around me, I know these people, you went door to door and you carried a big old trailer of media. You made a big old circus about it. You live streamed it. You did it out here in the Texas heat, so you were sweating through your shirt. But every step of the way, you were able to demonstrate that you were going to your former constituents, people that used to be represented by people who agreed with them, and let them know what is happening right now in the Texas State House is going to disenfranchise your interests. You used to have somebody that would fight for you. You're not going to have that anymore. And when you talk to everybody and you ask them door by door whether or not they agreed, you could also say things like, are you registered to vote? If not, here's the easy steps on how to do it. We can help you do it right now. Do you have an extra $15 that you'd like to donate to the Texas State Democratic Party? Help us make sure that we are going to rectify this wrong. And the only way that we're going to beat him is at the ballot box, because the trifecta of power here in the Texas House, Senate, and governorship has led us to this position where you, kindly Texas liberal, are about to be represented by some of the most conservative people, not only in the United States House of Representatives, but also in your own state. Well, that seems like that would be a really crazy way that you could raise a bunch of money. Feels like that would be a pretty interesting way that you could help make sure that your key voting demo, the ones that are going to have to be engaged if you want to play in this Texas Senate seat, if you want to play for governor, well, you could certainly bind them to this. You can make them remember the time that the thing happened. And what's more, it's going to end with a cherry on top, because part of the reason why the Texas Democrats are out of the state is because the governor can't compel them by way of the Texas Rangers to be brought physically back to the Capitol to hold quorum. Why are you not doing that? Is my question. Do you think that the more powerful image visually is you, faceless, nameless Texas Democrat, to be in the lobby bar in Albany, or to be in the back of a Texas Ranger squad car being brought back to Austin, Texas? Having your staffers live stream the entire trip down 35. I mean, I know what I would do if I were running the Texas Democrats. But, you know, what do I know? I'm just a guy on the internet. This is your update. Brought to you by TakePoliticsSeriously.com. That's where you need to go if you want to support this show. Get 2 bonus episodes each and every week, rain or shine. We're going to have to do a few on the road this week as well. Just so you know, I'm going to be working hard for you while I'm out there getting everything else done, because I love you. All right? You're going to make me say it? I love you. Yeah, I said the word, the hard L. Let's get to some stories that we didn't have a chance to get to in the show. President Trump confirmed that Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent will not be the next Federal Reserve chair, saying Bessent declined the role and wants to remain as the Secretary of Treasury. Trump, who has been feuding with current Fed Chair Jerome Powell, is considering National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett and former Fed board member Kevin Warsh as replacements, along with two unnamed candidates. Powell's term as chair ends in May of next year, but he remains on the board until 2028. Trump also said that he will soon name a short-term replacement for outgoing Fed Governor Adriana Kugler, possibly somebody who could later become the chair. On Bessent, he said, "I love Scott, but he wants to be where he is." This has been one of the simmering behind-the-scenes stories with the economy, which again, I believe is the number one story. It should be the number one thing that Donald Trump wakes up every single day and thinks about. And it should be the number one thing that the Democrats wake up every single day and think about. It will determine the midterms. It will determine the next president. It will determine all political decisions for the rest of our lives. And if one of the biggest questions that dogged Joe Biden was, do you have an ability to sell your achievements on the economy, or do you have a lack of an ability to contextualize to the American public what is going on, let alone take action, then again, all of this is top of mind. This decision that we just mentioned is very important because businesses think oftentimes a year and a half out. You know, for businesses, a year out is short-sighted. 5 years out, 10 years out, that's where you want to be thinking, especially if you run a durable business, one that expects to be around for as long as the American capitalistic machine continues rolling. So what does that mean about the Fed chair? Well, right now, you've got a Fed chair that's going to be out in May of next year. That's still several months, but as we like to say on this show, all power is future power, which means that Jerome Powell's power is tick, 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 getting ever shorter. So if he wants to hold interest rates exactly where they are for the rest of his term, he can. But if you've got somebody who's named as his successor, and they are saying out in public, the rate should be here, then if you are thinking a year out from a business perspective, you're going to start plugging those numbers into your spreadsheet because you know when May rolls around, those rates are going to come down at the very least to where that person says they are. And you can start making business decisions based on that. You know, the stock market is something that is future looking. And so if the market wants lower rates and this guy says he wants the lower rates, it is a way of kind of like borrowing equity from next year, if that makes sense. Now, Bessent was said to be somebody who was on the inside track, that it was his job if he wanted it. You know, I am not deep enough in my actuarial tables to ever think that the Fed chairmanship is something that I would desperately want, but I would imagine that there are many whose mind swims with fiduciary thoughts that is a gigantic legacy maker. It's one of those jobs that once you get there, you're pretty much made for the rest of your life. But Bessent doesn't want it. And I don't blame him because, you know, of all the people that have come into the Trump administration, if you were going to rank them, Bessent's kind of come out the best. He's been able to be a transformative Treasury Secretary. He has survived some of his enemies like Elon Musk. And he is overseeing 7,000 trade deals that are all going on at once. So I can understand. He's like, look, I got enough of a gig. All right. I don't need to be like Marco Rubio and do 15 of them. President Trump and Special Envoy Steve Witkoff met Monday to discuss the significant U.S. expansion of humanitarian aid to Gaza amid stalled ceasefire talks and Israeli plans to escalate the war even further. Concerned about worsening starvation, Trump is pushing for a U.S.-led effort despite reservations, tasking Witkoff to coordinate global support. Gulf nations like Qatar will provide funding, while Egypt and Jordan will help operationally. The United States aims to lead because Israeli aid efforts have thus far, at least to the administration, proven insufficient. While Israel supports the American role, internal debates continue over Netanyahu's plan to fully occupy Gaza, particularly areas where hostages are likely held. Israeli military leaders have warned such operations could endanger hostages and force long-term Israeli rule over Gaza's population. Trump's goal is to increase aid outside Hamas-controlled combat zones, but Netanyahu's military strategy may well complicate those efforts. The Israeli Security Cabinet is expected to vote on the occupation plan later this week, Thursday specifically. We played a clip on the Sunday show from the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. That is a combination of religious charities, mercenaries, and the IDF. That was in reaction to Israeli criticism that the UN is compromised, or at least turns a blind eye to funds being and aid being hijacked by Hamas. And now you see something that Trump has been prone to react to. Donald Trump is a boomer through and through. There is nothing that changes that man's opinion, much like all the boomers during the Vietnam War, like seeing gross things on television. And he has seen too many pictures and videos of starving children, skeletal frames in Gaza. And now he believes that America needs to take more of a leading role in doing it. What does that mean? How much is this hand in glove with Israel? And is there a world in which the IDF says that, look, we haven't ripped Hamas out root and branch, but if we can make a deal to get the rest of the hostages back and we deal with a decimated Hamas, is that better? I don't know. In my opinion, the only way that Netanyahu backs down is that his standing within his coalition is totally destroyed. It feels like we are getting closer to that, but we are not there yet. But then again, I am not an Israeli Knesset watcher particularly closely. From the American perspective, you know, the easy thing to say is don't involve yourself too much because it's an ugly situation and it's only going to get uglier. But Donald Trump, again, this happened, was it in Syria, where Trump was moved to action because he saw gassed children on television? That dude, and he's not shy about it. He'll say it. He's like, I was watching the television and I saw kids being hurt, and now we are going to commit military might to it. I don't know. I mean, also, what's Hamas's play? If Americans are involved in delivering aid, that doesn't seem to stop Hamas from creating a scene, which, I mean, there is, whether or not the GHF stops have been death traps, there's no doubt that the narrative that Hamas wants out there is that. So we don't know the veracity of those claims, but that's certainly what they've said. If you had U.S. troops delivering aid, I don't know. It seems like a no-win situation. Finally, I just wanted to read this story because the headline had me go, audi. Transportation Secretary and interim NASA Administrator Sean Duffy announced a fast-track plan to build a 100-kilowatt nuclear reactor on the moon. This would, of course, support a future lunar base. The headline was NASA had fast-tracking plans to build nuclear reactor on the moon, which is one of those things where it's one of those amazing headlines because I didn't know we had a plan to build a nuclear reactor on the moon, let alone one that was going too slow. Duffy cited competition with China and emphasized the need for reliable energy to sustain life and advance toward Mars. He said NASA is shifting from research to deployment, calling the technology not massive and clarifying that it would not be launched live. So we would not be launching a fully built nuclear reactor. It would be built on Mars. The initiative marks Duffy's first major move since his July appointment, following Jared Isaacman's withdrawal. The announcement comes amid staff cuts and renewed focus on human spaceflight under the Trump administration's push for lunar dominance. Things that make you go, That's your update. TakePoliticsSeriously.com, where you need to go if you want to get 2 bonus episodes each and every week. And now, Mr. Kirk Bado. Friends, it is always a pleasure to welcome Hotline editor Kirk Bado, National Journal. How you doing, buddy?
Justin, anytime I get to sit here, this virtual end here of this internet superhighway and talk shop with you, I know I'm doing something right. Doing well today. Doing very well today.
Good. I always like to ask you, where is the DC Depression Index right now? Because the last time it was pretty high when we talked. Has there been any vibe shift or mood change in DC, or has the oppressive summer heat only exacerbated it?
There's a lot of hope right now because the oppressive summer heat and humidity has broken for the time being. The last about 4 days or so has actually been semi-decent weather for DC in August. Humidity's been pretty low. It's about 80 degrees out here right now.
Oh, nice.
It's Fool's Fall right now. Everyone's been out and about. Congress is out of town too, which I think really helps out a lot with that. I think there might be a coincidence that with Congress leaving town, the humidity and hot air breaks as well.
There we go.
But I need to pull a little bit more data to confirm that. But it's actually pretty pleasant right now. The streets are empty because everyone's taken off. People are in and out for all of August. So it's very slow right now here.
Yeah. What is the number one story for you right now?
It's the redistricting stuff, easily. I'm also a big House nerd, too. So this redistricting arms race, which we've put plenty of ink to paper to at Hotline over the last about 2 weeks, is probably the most dominant story for us right now. And just seeing which blue states are going to try to subvert their state constitutions to try and redraw the lines. I was writing this morning actually about looking back at those halcyon days of H.R. 1 and how Democrats responded to the first Trump administration with this omnibus election bill with all this election reform to expand voter access, expand access to the polls, campaign finance reform, and also a nationwide ban basically on partisan gerrymandering by having the states each adopt an independent commission. Now you fast forward to Trump in the second time around, and Democrats aren't going high this time. It's kind of a race to the bottom where they're throwing out that good government reform playbook out the window.
I blistered the Texas Democrats in the monologue, so I won't rehash all of it. But I do wonder, look, there's a mechanical side of this of you can gerrymander your districts. I'm coming around on the other side. I think everyone should gerrymander it within an inch of their life because I want to get to the other side of this tunnel where people try to deli slice it so thin that they wind up screwing up and the seats become more competitive than they might, because that is part of this, is that you are diluting safe districts with other voters. But
it's a dummy mander.
Yeah, well, that's the other side of it. It's like, all right, well, sure, on paper, this is 5 extra seats, but in reality, you're going to wind up activating a certain base, or you're going to have to try and redraw it again later. But I don't know. There's the mechanical side of this and then the political side of this. And I really wonder whether or not, unless you put a lot of time and effort into making it personal for voters, the mechanical side of it, which people like us really care about, doesn't register. Like, people don't care unless you make them care. And right now, I don't know if that is being done. But then again, I don't know if it can be done. I don't know if, like, if you stack up who is your representative, who's your congressional representative. The only time that I've ever in real life people heard about contacting their House of Representatives member was when they needed a passport faster. Right. Or when they needed some kind of governmental form.
Or they wanted a flag that was flown or something like that. Like,
yeah.
Or when their representative is in the news for something dumb. Like, I grew up outside of Kansas City for a little bit when Kevin Yoder was our representative. And the only reason people knew anything about Kevin Yoder was when he got busted for skinny dipping in, I believe it was the Dead Sea on a Codell. That's when everyone was talking about Kevin Yoder. So I'm with you on that this talking to people about redistricting and gerrymandering is really, really difficult. Hell, it's difficult for us to talk about in the newsroom. And I don't necessarily know if it's registering with voters at all, really, about these efforts to redraw the lines. Like, there was a big push about a decade and a half ago to try and take out partisanship from redistricting. You saw a lot of good government reforms come in. That's what's making it so much more difficult for Gavin Newsom and California Democrats to crack open their lines. Same thing in New York as well. But it doesn't seem to be the same type of energy now that there was like a decade ago when they broke up the Pennsylvania map, when North Carolina was getting redrawn every 2 years, which is still happening right now, but there's a lot less attention to it. It doesn't really animate voters, and polling on it's been pretty scarce. And I'd be really surprised if this top issue for people like you and me, this issue that we're covering extensively in Hotline, is really making much of a drop in anyone else's bucket outside of us.
The one thing that is for sure is that the Republicans seem to be 5 miles ahead of the Democrats here. Not only beyond their ability to do it, Texas is going to be able to. They will redraw this map no matter how far the Democrats want to scamper. Eventually, they are going to have to come home, and eventually they, by hook or by crook, will be there for this map to be redrawn. But also, it's like, we're just talking about this now. Kathy Hochul's recording like no more Mr. Nice Gal videos like yesterday. Right. Like, this is already done. The only question is how many Republican controlled states are going to redraw their maps.
Right. I mean, we know for sure Ohio's going to have to redraw their map because the map they used 2 years ago was ruled unconstitutional. They'll probably gain a seat, maybe 2 seats from that redraw. There's been reports today that Missouri is definitely going to be doing this as well, or at least looking into it. Matthew Klein over at the Cook Political Report with Amy Walter scooped that this morning. JD Vance is in talks with Mike Braun in Indiana about redrawing their lines as well to finally get that Frank Mervan seat up in northern Indiana. I mean, it really is an arms race to the bottom right now with redistricting. At least that's in my mind. Like, I understand your point that everyone should just damn the torpedoes and just keep drawing and drawing and drawing. I do think that the Texas one might backfire, though, in the right political environment. And we might see a few more competitive seats in Texas like we did in 2020, where that was the front line of the battle for the House.
Well, that's, the monologue, I basically said, why are the Texas Democrats in Illinois? Illinois is the funniest because it's the most gerrymandered state that there is. But why would you leave? The one thing that Texas hates is other states. Stay in Texas, go to all these neighborhoods and inform all these neighborhoods. And I live next to them. Like, I know these areas. If you brought a crap ton of media and you live streamed it and you were sweating through your shirt, knocking on doors and saying, hey, I just want to let you know, I am your representative currently based on what's happening down the road. I'm not going to be. in, 2 days. Are you registered to vote? Would you like to donate? Like
Right.
that's a big energizing moment that is a lot more, especially if you wind up getting put in a Texas Ranger squad car and hauled down to the Capitol so you can have quorum. That's a huge moment. That's a big, defining, exhilarating moment for Texas Democrats. It's not sitting in a lobby bar in Albany, which is apparently the path that they've chosen in an ineffectual line in the sand that they're going to have to walk back over. So I don't know. I mean, I think for Democrats, this is an opportunity. The problem is that if right now we're in a hyper partisan environment and the only thing the Democratic base wants to do is like fight.
Right.
You do have to think 2 steps ahead if you're going to effectively fight. And like right now, I just don't think that that's the case for them. They can't think anything other than like 1 inch in front of their face, which includes the fact that like past 2021, the last time the Texas Democrats did this, nothing went right for them. They lost seats in the House. They had members defect. They have not raised more money. They have not gained statewide. Everything has gone worse for them since they did this. And yet now they're doing it again.
Correct. And, it's not just in Albany. They're also being used as props in J.B. Pritzker's presidential campaign because he's out there right now in front of the campaign posters and everything with them as they're fleeing to Illinois. I'm curious about how is it does, to your point real quick, it does seem like Republicans are holding serve right now and Democrats are struggling just to get it back over the net. They're not thinking strategically. They're not thinking ahead here. It's all been reactive right now. They're not being proactive at all. And I'm curious, you're down in Texas right now.
Yeah.
How is it playing out down there? I don't want to step on your monologue too much, but how is it playing out down there right now with either folks that you're talking to down there? Are they paying attention to this? How's local media covering it? Because you're right in the center of the action right now.
Yeah, it doesn't break through. It's not abortion. It's not something where, the hyper politically connected are going to be very activated by it because this is going to be in the feeds of the people that are already very partisan Democrats. And that's the area that I am in. I am in a blue area. Any red state, no matter how red the state it is, the cooler the blue center it is, usually around a university or a capital.
Right.
I haven't seen it really animate people. That may change, but number one, you have to be present. That's the other thing. That's the thing I don't get about leaving is like, no, be here. Be mad here.
Right.
Here's where your voters are. Here is where you can say, this is the disenfranchised area. And, if there's one thing that this crowd I think would be receptive to is to say like, wow, I feel like I have less of a role in my state government or in my representation. They already feel that in Texas because liberals have not really had a whole lot of say into how things go, except at a city level. But it's, I don't know. It's just a mess. I don't see gigantic protests. And that is something that has happened for abortion. That's something that's happened for Trump-related things with like the No King stuff. It's something that happened for immigration, happened for Palestine. Like these are things that seem to animate people. Right now, there's a new map that could give Republicans 5 seats. It's too up in the weeds. It's too heady. It's too conceptual, I think, to make people leave their house. Maybe that'll change.
Maybe when they get back here and they're forced to vote, to at least witness the vote, you're going to see more people up in arms about it. But I don't necessarily think that the change in 5 seats either way is going to really animate people. And
I mean, where it animates people is where you are. It animates people on the Hill because 5 seats is the difference between Speaker Mike Johnson and Speaker Hakeem Jeffries.
Absolutely. That's the ball game. Like if you can effectively more than double the size of your majority in the next 2 months or so between the redraw in Texas and the redraw that they're going to finish up in Ohio. I mean, that's the ball game.
And
right
possibly
there.
2 in Florida too, because DeSantis seems dead set on that.
Exactly. And Democrats just don't have any arrows in their quiver on this one. Now, again, diluting these lines could backfire, and you could actually have a lot more competitive seats in Texas than you would if you just left the lines alone, because you got to remember, however many years ago it was, 4 years ago when they redrew these lines, it was all about an incumbent protection program. They shored up the Democratic seats, they shored up the Republican seats, and they said, all right, we're going to have like 2 competitive seats and we'll be square here. You could get more investment down here in terms of competitive races, but it's just not animating people. And I don't think, and this goes back to something you and I have talked about a lot when we were at the conventions together too, that the Biden argument and what became the Harris argument as well, that they are trying to be this bulwark of democracy and democratic ideals, is not really an animating line of messaging for the Democrats right now. That these high-minded ideas about democracy, rule of law, of preserving the republic, that Trump's a crook, that he's subverting elections and everything. That gets people excited up in my neck of the woods, and people whose job it is to think about elections, but not necessarily your everyday voter. And I think you've seen a hard pivot from Democrats away from that with this latest power grab.
No, now it's I don't want to fight with one hand tied behind my back.
I think Eric Holder is the biggest one of that. I mean, Eric Holder, who 8 years ago started the National Democratic Redistricting Committee, which was always at least had a thin veneer of kind of good government minded reform here, even though they're just pushing for Democrats to draw maps in a bunch of these places, told the Times over the weekend, and I thought this was just a crazy reversal. I got the quote right here. He's comparing it to the rise of fascism in Europe before World War II. He goes, it's like the Germans have invaded France. Are you going to just say, well, we're against war and we're here for the resolution of disputes in a peaceful way? Sometimes you have to take up arms, Holder said. I mean, just everything out the window from the last 8 years.
I'm calling for a full and complete stop to World War II metaphors until we can find out what's going on. It is a damning incitement to American historical education. You can't come up with any other war.
It's always
Punic
World War II.
Fall of Rome.
Everyone's a Nazi, and it's all World War II.
Call your enemies Visigoths. Let's get some kind of diversity here.
The Huns are at the gates.
Yes. Why does everybody have to be a Nazi? There's got to be other bad guys that we can identify here. Holder is about as, he's an operative in about as brutal of a sense as possible. So it does not shock me that he is there, to move the ball forward for his side, because that's what he's best at. Here's my thing though. The only story to me, which it got a little bit of ink at the end of last week, it seems to have receded in the phase or in the mood of the redistricting stuff. And
is it the Sydney Sweeney story?
It's the economy. That's it. That to me is the only, it's like, look, the Bureau of Labor Statistics thing, that matters. It matters in that it's Trump worst instincts. You saw the smart machine that has been built around Trump 2.0 react to those numbers with their own plausible story of like, hey, look, foreign-born workers out, American-born workers in. This is what it looks like. When you rip off a Band-Aid, hair comes out. Like, yeah, it's painful, but we're on the right track. We're going to go forward. And then Donald Trump is like, oh yeah, this lady's cheating, fire her. And
right.
she does, and he does. That's good machine. The Trump of it all. Every once in a while, Trump's just going to look at something he doesn't like and fire somebody because he's that kind of capricious dude. If the economy is in the position that the worst interpretations of those numbers seem to suggest, that's it. Everything, clear the decks. Never mention Epstein again. Never mention redistricting again. The only thing that matters is that Donald Trump has tanked the economy with his cockamamie schemes. He was elected to make things cheaper. He's making things more expensive. He wanted to bring more jobs. He has brought less jobs because it turns out he's economically ignorant. And we are going, as Democrats, are going to do the impossible and convince you that we are better at the economy than you have thought about us for the last 50 years. This is a huge opportunity to do that if they can. I don't think that they're even thinking about it, which is crazy to me.
Well, I mean, you're exactly right. That attacking Trump on what his voters, or at least the people who voted against Harris, thought was Trump's core competency, which is the economy. He's the deal maker. He's the guy who can lower the price of goods here. If you attack that, if you take that away from him, he and Republicans are going to be powerless here.
Yeah.
The jobs numbers were distressing. The revisions to the jobs numbers from the past 2 months.
That's what hurt. What hurt was that what looked like strong jobs numbers for the last 2 months weren't just revised down. They were like eliminated.
It was over, like, what was it, 250,000 or so, reduced by 250,000 or so? That's nuts.
Insane.
Now, unemployment is still relatively low, which is an encouraging sign for now. But if the economy is not growing at that projected rate that the White House is trying to put out, or that businesses thought it was going to, based on those first round of job numbers, you're going to see that unemployment rate start ticking up real quick. And that's what's going to hurt Trump. And I can't help but think where we were at this point 4 years ago with Biden, where his core competency was supposed to be foreign policy.
Yeah.
And then we had the disastrous pullout from Afghanistan. His numbers inverted and they never recovered. If we're looking at a similar situation play out here, not on foreign policy, but on economic policy here with Trump, I don't think he'll recover. And I don't think the Republicans will recover either before 26. And it's going to be, if Democrats are smart, they will make the campaign entirely about that. Just like how in 2018, they made the whole campaign about defending the ACA and about defending healthcare. But if they can't do that, then they don't deserve to be in power. If they can't if they can't feast on the low-hanging fruit here, then they deserve to starve.
All right. And then, of course, there is the Sydney Sweeney controversy, which
I thought you would open with that.
I know. It's, I think, fascinating that this conversation, I think, initially was like, all right, like no one's really arguing about the Sydney Sweeney ad. And then it became clear, no, people are really arguing about the Sydney Sweeney ad.
Yes.
It is among some of the worst instincts of the larger liberal and leftist ecosystem. Although they hate each other, they share an ecosystem. And it does leave them open to the meme that I saw floating around of like, Democrats, we hate capitalism, hot chicks, and Jews, which is that's you can get hit by that. At least one of those three when you're arguing about the Sydney Sweeney.
You can't go to war against all three of them if you want to win elections.
It's hard to build a coalition, especially with young men, which was the last conversation that we had, because at least two of those three big hits with young men. Let's go back. I know people are tired of it, but I love the campaign books. I read another one and I feel like we're done. Are we done with the campaign books?
I think we're done for now with the reporters' campaign books.
Yes.
But as we were talking about very briefly before we turn the mics on here, we haven't even begun for the official or authorized version of events from the principals themselves.
Yeah.
Harris just announced a book. Biden just inked a memoir deal as well. Carrie-Anne Jean-Pierre has her book coming out about what really happened.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for the Trump book industrial complex to spring to life as well and start churning out
things that are happening books now.
Correct. I think we're done with the wave of books where we will learn something.
Yes.
We are about to enter into the cash grab phase.
The reputation management phase of our program. Before we get into our final grades and thoughts on the 2024 campaign books, there was the Mark Halperin tweet of what he said was the 107 days first chapter. It reads electrically. It is awesome. It is unlike anything that you have ever heard come out of Kamala Harris's mouth. He has apparently hinted, I have not seen on his morning meeting or his various two-way programs, that this is satire. It seems odd for a guy that doesn't tweet or delve into satire often.
I'm glad you're asking that question, because as I was reading it, and as I was reading these choice paragraphs about her seeing visions of Hillary Clinton hovering over her, whispering "win or die, bitch."
Yes, and then and then disappearing in a cloud of evaporated Chardonnay, which is like, mwah, like chef's kiss. Just one of the funniest lines.
I was just like, you couldn't ask a comedian to write a better satire of what, like, Greg Gutfeld would give his left arm to be able to come up with jokes like this here.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced it's real or not, but I am blown away at this is what could be in this book. And I think I'm going to have to pre-order it. Did you have a favorite line? Do you have a favorite section in this supposed first chapter?
The Hillary one is very, very hard to beat, but her talking to her non-binary aide who says that they're going to run a mood-forward campaign, and then her Googling mood-based government or vibes-based government. Like, again, it's like, it represents a Kamala Harris that has never existed. She's never had this level of sense of humor. If she was hiding it, I'll put it this way. If this is real and she herself is this funny, this witty, this well-adjusted, and this willing to skewer her own power structure.
And skewer Biden.
Then not only should her staffers never work in politics again, they should probably be deported to CCOT. Like, absolutely. they should head shaved, like marched out, like in the Bukele special. Like, it is ridiculous that if she is this, which I don't think she is, I do think that this is Mark Halperin writing a satire, which shows that the author of Game Change is also a very funny fiction writer. But he, like, it represents, I think, an idealized version of a Kamala Harris that doesn't exist.
I think you're right, because this type of Kamala Harris, like, can I just read to you the passage that stood out to me from where she's describing the last days of the Biden administration, and she goes, so the post goes, Joe had vanished, not died, not resigned, just slipped into a pocket universe somewhere between Scranton and Senality. They found his shoes in the rose garden, still tied, no footprints, just a pile of Weathers wrappers and an open classified folder labeled "very sensitive, no jokes." Like, that's pretty funny. That's really funny. Good. And just imagine if that was the Kamala Harris that was let loose on, like, the podcast circuit, or if they figured out how to work with Joe Rogan or something like that. Like, this is
that Kamala Harris would have went on Call Her Daddy and then actually talked about her dating life, which is the point of that show. Like, correct. And wouldn't have just regurgitated super canned talking points about a woman's right to choose. That Kamala Harris may have been president. I mean, she might have been president. She might have gotten the nomination in 2016 or 2020, based on that. What confused me, and really I think has even given life to any of this, is that Mark Halperin broke Biden dropping out. Like, he is somebody that has rehabilitated his image from the Me Too shadow realm based on being plugged in and being able to have scoops like this. So if he decided to drop without hint or irony, like, oh, no, I was just joshing guys. But meanwhile, I also put my, like, everybody must refer to Mark Halperin if they mention this tag up front. I think that would be out of character. But
if he cashes in all his temporary goodwill that he got from, breaking the Biden dropping out story, for a satire like this to make himself laugh and maybe a few other people on the joke, I'm laughing at this too, that he might have the worst media instincts of any reporter I've ever come across, because what are we doing here? I do think that, this is just,
maybe he just doesn't care. Which is part of the reason why he's good now, is because he's willing to go after media power structures, because they defenestrated him out of the halls of power. We Amy Parnes and John Allen have been on this show. We've been a huge fan of Fight, and we're going to talk about that in a second. But they're now where he was in 2012. They're at the top of the mountain. They got the championship belt of they'll be able to write campaign books for as long as they can. One of them's being adapted into a movie like Game Change was. Right. Then Me Too happens. He gets Me Too'd. He's out of there. But he's able to critique that structure because it spurned him. He couldn't re-enter if he wanted. He's now set up his shingle in the alternative media ecosystem, which is rising in power. But maybe he just doesn't care. He's just all right, whatever. Yeah. So sometimes I write jokes, and sometimes I legitimately tell you the day Joe Biden's going to drop out. You never know with old Marky H.
I just up to my old tricks again.
Wild card.
Wild, that's like the Charlie Day. Wild card. Exactly. And look, again, I probably out of professional obligation will read the Harris memoir. Out of professional obligation, I will probably read the Biden one as well. I'm probably going to skip.
That's supposed to be 500 pages, dog. 500 pages of Joe Biden just Bidening at levels unseen.
I hope there's at least 30 pages dedicated to Corn Pop and walking through the stories of him as a lifeguard. I need more of that in my life. But I will probably be skipping the Kerry and Jean-Pierre independent one, but I'll be watching the media coverage of that one pretty intently.
Of the three, I feel like that's the one I'm most interested in.
It's going to be the shortest too.
Because number one, she's kind of doing the Jake Tapper, hot dog man suit. We're all trying to find out who covered up for Joe Biden. So I'm interested in how she does this. Also, low key, this is the second time she's done this. She did it with another campaign she worked on, where she wrote a book about how to know that your campaign's a disaster. So she is a known, she's like Billy Zane in Titanic. She's pushing away women and children.
I have a child. I have a child.
Yeah. She's screaming, I have a child, getting on the life phone off this wreck.
Okay, maybe I'm an independent.
Exactly.
Maybe I should put that at the top of the reading list instead.
But it's just going to be interesting to see how she paints this, which is all I've ever wanted. And part of the reason why that Kamala Harris, fake quote unquote excerpt is so interesting is that I would actually like real books from all these people. I would love truth serum books from all these people. I would read what Corinne Jean-Pierre went through if she really wanted to tell us hey, we're getting destroyed on this and it is ugly. And I'm working the phones day and night to make sure. And so that's when we put cheap fakes in the Washington Post so they could tell us, hey, what about this cheap fakes thing? I would love the mechanics on that. The one book I would love more than anybody if she actually told the truth is Hillary. An actual honest Hillary book would be electric because by all accounts, she's very funny. She's incredibly vindictive and she loves blowtorching people that she doesn't respect. And I would love that.
That one, and more recently for me, Doug Emhoff, I would love just a book of his view from like the guy going, oh, shucks on the sidelines. But the Hillary Clinton one, if she ever did want to go scorched earth and not just do the what happened one, but actually go into it, name some names.
When I started reading it and then I just knocked it off when she was like halfway through and she's like, Bernie Sanders is a good public servant. And I'm like, shut up. Shut your mouth. Like, you have a whole book worth of venom for Bernie Sanders. Like, just destroy this old coot. And she's like, well, nostril breathing really calmed me down. I'm like, shut up. You would hate this book. You would hate this book. By everything that I've read about you, you would despise this book because it is nothing but pedantic nonsense.
Correct. Well, and that's it. We're talking about all these books that are coming out and everything. I live up in Capitol Hill here in DC, and what's really nice is that I don't usually have to buy these books, because if I just wait a few months, they hit the free little libraries out there like crack on the street in the 80s.
That's
like,
amazing. You just walk by the free little libraries and pick up.
I wanted to read the Jonathan Martin and Alex Burns' This Will Not Pass when it came out. I waited a month. 4 just stacked up in the free little library. First editions. I'm like, all right, fine. This is my sign. Here we go.
You're probably getting galley
I look forward
copies.
to seeing 107 days up there by the end of the year.
Oh, dude, 107 days. It's so funny that the title's The Excuse too. That's so good.
It's baked in.
It's just like, why didn't I win? 107 days, y'all. 107 days. When it's like, no, you needed shorter. You needed 30 days. You needed 35 days, and we're talking Madam President.
If it was right after the convention, it was over.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go back to our superlatives for the for the books that have already come out. I want to give everybody.
Have you liked this tranche of books that have already come out? Have you learned stuff from them?
I have. I would rank them in general a B+, which is grading on a curve because I don't know what people are supposed to do in a world where we have taken out half the equity of what would normally be in these books by way of our modern media ecosystem. So a lot of the stuff that's there is like, oh, I remember that. I remember. It's almost like a refresher. It's like a permanent record of what happened. So a lot of it isn't super new if you're a psychotic like we are, but it's good to have it all in one place. But there were things that I learned in the best versions of them. And there were some amusing ones, like Chuck Schumer wanting everybody to know that Biden said he had big balls.
The Chuck Schumer anecdotes, you and I were texting actually when that was coming out, and we had the same thought of there's no, like, it's that old adage, there's no more dangerous place in Washington than to be between Chuck Schumer and a camera. There's no more dangerous place in Washington than to be between Chuck Schumer and a campaign biographer here, because he was making sure his version of the story got out there. But
which is so funny when it's like, all right, so it's a story that is repeated in both Original Sin and 2024, the new one from the Wall Street Journal reporters. And they both are Joe Biden. The stories are Joe Biden and Chuck Schumer by themselves in Biden's house. And Biden, after Schumer basically says, look, the senators they're going to start dropping and you're going to get meaningful attrition in the Senate. Because they think they're going to lose if they don't torch you. And Biden saying, you got the biggest balls of anyone I've ever known. Which, if there's two people on the porch and Biden is not talking, then it has to be Chuck Schumer telling the reporters, Joe Biden said I had gigantic balls, which is just an amazing thing to think of. Chuck Schumer getting on the phone. You have to make sure that you tell everybody that he said I had the biggest balls he ever saw.
He's like doing who the big balls dance down the basketball court. But that's like reading that anecdote. It reminded me of like an Armageddon where the astronauts come back down after spoiler alert, Bruce Willis dies, and he goes to shake the hand of Liv Tyler, and it's just like, I just wanted to shake the hand of the bravest man, the daughter of the bravest man I ever met. I'm like, what the hell are we doing here?
So that being said, all right, for you. And let me list the books just for everybody. These are the books that I have read: Fight, 2024, Original Sin, Uncharted, and Revenge. We've had some of the authors here on the show. Many of these books have been talked about a lot. For you, if this is our Oscar ballot, who is your best book award winner?
I think my best book award goes to My Eyes See 2024. And I think much like the Oscars, my voting has been tainted by the campaigning as well for this, where I think Original Sin probably had the most insider,
and the biggest rollout.
The insider information that we could have wanted from this, especially on the Democratic side, which was a black box for so long. But I felt like reading it that I had learned all these things before because of the long runway that it had in the lead up to it. Not just the book excerpts, but every political podcast I listened to, I felt like I was either getting Alex Thompson or Jake Tapper
or
telling us more and more about this book, to the point where it was like, why am I reading this when everything that was worth knowing is already out here? I just felt like it flooded the zone way too much. And also the I tried to tell you so attitude of it as well. I'm trying to think of, there have been a few like Oscar campaigns, especially for the big four category, the big four acting categories, where this happens, where the actor or actress over campaigns for it, and the Academy voters kind of recoil from it. And that's how I felt with Original Sin a little bit. And that's me being a theater critic, though. I felt like with 2024, I got the most information from both sides there, and especially about the immediate aftermath of the assassination attempt. That was the part to me that was the most exciting and the one that I was in the dark the most about.
I think 2024 for me may have been the most complete.
I think that's what I'm trying to get at.
But I do think that it loses very narrowly to me against Fight, mostly because what Parnes and Allen specialize the best in is understanding the DNA and blood flow of a campaign. And specifically on the Kamala side, you got every sense. Like, what those Slack channels looked like. Who people blamed. They've got such a great knack for getting people to just do a full autopsy on what went right and what went wrong. That, and it had, a lot of these anecdotes wind up getting recycled. You saw a few of them. That's what I think 2024 does the best job of getting most of those anecdotes that are repeated other places. Like the Trump campaign sending up a dummy plane because they're worried that the Iranians are going to shoot a missile at the plane, which is a great scene, but it's repeated in a few books. What Fight got, number one, if the two biggest stories of the election were, aside from Trump getting shot, what happened to Biden and how much of a disaster was the Kamala campaign? Did they ever have a shot? The Fight book has the story of, which I was expecting to see in Original Sin too, of after Biden did the "Where's Jackie" moment. For folks who don't know, there was a co-sponsor of a bill when Biden signed it that had died, but Biden called for her during the press conference. Biden felt so bad about that he invited the now deceased representative's mother to the White House. And what happened after that was apparently this meandering 40-minute tour of the White House where
just wandering around with her.
Just wandering. So it's like an elderly woman and Joe Biden is just pointing at things and asking for doors to be unlocked that don't lead anywhere. And apparently for everybody there, it was like, what is going on? This is just like worrying on some level. That wasn't repeated anywhere else. I thought that was a very important anecdote. And they got everything from the Kamala campaign. It was light on the Trump stuff. There was one really interesting anecdote where Susie Wiles is worried during the trial in New York that someone's going to try and kill him, which is like foreshadowing. But in general, narrow win, more narrow than I was thinking. But I give they retain the belt. Parnes and Allen for me retain the belt and are the undisputed champions of these kinds of books for another 4 years.
Look, Josh Dossey's going to cash in the Money in the Bank challenge eventually here. But I think you're right. Again, it's narrow for me too, but I do think that 2024 was the most complete picture on both sides of it.
Yes.
And that's why when I'm thinking about, the books I have behind me here from past election cycles, like I was doing an exercise a little earlier this year of trying to find the one definitive account of every presidential election cycle.
That's a great one. That's a great mission.
I need to share the list with you because it's amidst of documentaries, it's amidst of, obviously what it takes and the first few making of the president's ones. But when I think about the one that I want to have with me when I'm 30 years down the line, trying to remember what all happened here.
2024 is probably the most complete.
That's what I'm kind of judging against right now. It's like the Bill Simmons thing where he does the 5 years later Oscars. Yeah. I'm trying to think of the 20 years down the line, what's going to be on the bookshelf here.
I would agree with that. That being said, I will say that all of the books that I read were the best at something. So 2024 is probably the most complete. Fight is easily the best one if you want to know what happened on the Kamala campaign.
Yep.
Original Sin is easily the best one if you want to know what was happening within Biden world. Uncharted is easily the best if you want to know what was happening amongst elite liberal spheres. Right. So it's like they have a great story of when the George Clooney op-ed comes out. Morning Joe suggests that George Clooney is being put up to it by Obama World, and he didn't write the op-ed, and George Clooney apparently called and blistered some MSNBC reporter and was just like ripping him and screaming and wouldn't shut up. So you get great stuff there. And Revenge is by far the best in terms of Trump world. You get the best idea of how that machine worked and all that. All right. Who came out amongst all these books the best? Who is the most? Because that's the one thing about these books, especially in DC, it is a reputation setter for the next 4 years because everybody reads these things and who's up top, who's down in the basement. Let's go good first. Who made out the best amongst all these books?
I think it has to be Susie Wiles in all of them. I know she won.
That's the correct answer.
She's the winner. Yeah. I think she's the one who comes out the best in all of these, even if they repeat some of the same anecdotes here.
Yeah.
There's hard to find a negative one. There's hard to find one where she is not the reasonable voice of reason instead of the unreasonable voice of reason. Yeah. I think Susie Wiles is the one who clears pretty substantially here. Yeah.
I would give a subhead to La Savita because for the image that he wants to cultivate, that's the foul-mouthed, ruthless, brutal ad maker who already had Swiftboat under his belt now gets to add the Kamala, she's for they, them, Trump is for you stuff into it.
He defeated 2 Democrats in one cycle. Yeah. He got a president to walk away and he defeated Kamala Harris, the sitting vice president. That's great.
So I would say that. Let's go to the basement. Who's irradiated the most?
I have a feeling you and I have the same answer to this as well. It's Mike, the Donnellan, I believe. Is
Ooh, no, that's off my board. I didn't have Donnellan, but I agree.
I feel like he's getting like knifed left and right, even like now with more stories coming out about, the salary that he demanded. He was making $4 million or something like that. Like, I definitely think that he's at the bottom of the basement here right now. Who do you think?
It is, for me, Jen O'Malley Dillon, who ran not only Biden's campaign, but also Kamala's campaign, which it's like, sometimes it's good for you to leave, I think is the lesson there.
Yes.
Where it's like, if you ran a campaign, and there's plenty in all these books that exactly how much control she had, at least over the biggest vulnerabilities of her campaign, that it's not necessarily blamed on her. But if you run the ship into the ground, if you're the captain when the ship runs into the ground, maybe shuffle up. Maybe it's better for you. It's better for you to shuffle off because she stays, she has more control, and things go worse. And
she was my second. She was my second here because she's the one who was the constant between two sinking ships here.
Yeah. The other one, and this is largely, I think, based, Original Sin does the big work on this, is Anthony Bernal, who's the chief of staff for Jill Biden.
Yes.
You gotta wonder whether or not this is a surrogate, that nobody wanted to knife Jill Biden, so they knife Anthony Bernal. I don't know whether he's the one who's coming up with all the things that he's talked about, but if you are, what people really wanted with Original Sin was like, who was covering this up? Is Biden, if Biden's out of it and he's having good days and bad days, is he covering it up or is it somebody else? It's Anthony Bernal and Jill Biden, and Bernal's the only one who's mentioned in the villainous tones of he's the one who told me not to do this or to do this.
Right. That he's just the fall. And you think he's just the fall guy right now, that he's kind of just the patsy for someone further up the food chain.
In the same way that it's like, oh, Pam Bondi really screwed up this Epstein stuff. And it's like, who's Pam Bondi getting her orders from? Like, it's like, it's Trump that's doing it. You have to wonder, it's like, is Anthony Bernal really the one who's like, no daylight.
This
Biden's fine. Everyone's
mastermind
doing
behind the scenes here. Like, come on. Wait, I don't know how many more categories you have here, but I have one for you.
Go.
Which journalist is coming out the best from this one? Because it does seem like every time we have a cycle of campaign books, there's another new big megastar from them. What journalist is walking away?
Alex Thompson and Barnes and Allen, to me, are the
That's the right
Barnes
answer.
and Allen got the movie deal. And Alex Thompson, even if he was the sidekick to Jake Tapper in the book rollout, in terms of reporters, what people care about reporting wise, like Jake Tapper was a mascot. He was Chuck E. Cheese.
He was the TV face for it.
Yeah, and Thompson's the kind of guy who his scoops will matter. His scoops will continue to matter.
That's the right answer. And I think about that a lot because he originally had a book deal for a Biden book that got canceled because people thought it would, the publishers thought there would not be much interest in it. Now look at it.
Yeah.
Like, what do we do? I think that's those three are the right answers.
All right, last one. Luckiest story that escaped coverage in all of these books. Again, you got the best campaign reporters in America that have these deals, that are writing books that they know are jockeying to find their space for the next 30 years on Kirk Bado's bookshelf. And yet I believe that there was one story that is so lucky that they escaped the ink that was spared them in all of these books.
You go first here. I'm thinking about this. You have one ready to go.
Yes.
Rip it off here. Let me hear it.
Ron DeSantis's primary campaign. which
wow,
by
that's great.
All contemporary reporting was a fundamental disaster. A just like tire fire. They tried to essentially run it pack first, which had not been done at that scale. That failed. DeSantis failed as a candidate. The person that they had exiled, Susie Wiles, becomes the hero that we had said, like, of all these books agree, Susie Wiles is the greatest. Her only like desire in life is to watch Casey and Ron DeSantis wallow in misery. Like that, the fact that they escaped chronicling is very good fortune for them.
You're 100% correct. I'm not even going to propose one because that is by far the best answer. Because if you want to look at original sin, the original sin for the Republicans was not Ron DeSantis jumping in February of 2021 saying, I'm going to run for president, when Trump was at his lowest. Yeah. And the behind the scenes story of that deserves its own book. And you are 100% correct.
I don't know if I did it online or if it was after my Parnes and Allen interview, but they were asking me what I thought of the book, and I was telling them my honest opinion on it. And I was like, look, soft cover, can we just get a chapter on the DeSantis campaign? I need something. Somebody needs to write something. And I kept waiting for it in all these books. And there was like, everybody focused on the Trump side of it, of like, oh, he launched early and he was ruthless with him. And it's like, yeah. I know all that. That's good. No sources from Tallahassee. I need to, come on, head on down to Tallahassee. We need the real story here.
It's not like DeSantis is the Death Star right now either, like he was 4 years ago. He's not. He is at his weakest, right? He didn't even get his own
they hated each other
into
at
the
the
governor's
time.
campaign.
Like all the Never Back Down people hated the campaign, and the campaign hated the Never Back Down pack. Like there's plenty of stuff out there. So I don't know. Maybe Parnes and Allen heed my call. Somebody get us a chapter there. All right, we have given out our awards. We got to get you out because you're doing Mortman's podcast, right?
I am. Literally going right from here, biking on down to the C-SPAN office to do the weekly.
That's amazing.
He wanted me to tell you hello, by the way. I told him you had me first today. He's like, America loves Justin Robert Young. America loves Kirk Bado, and we're getting them both today.
Howard Mortman in a world, and look, these are all books about people sniping each other. It is the viper's nest of DC at its most venomous.
Absolutely.
And the people that handle them so they can prepare these stories for us, there's nobody nicer in, I would say, certainly political media, maybe media full stop, than Howard Mortman. So
that strong second, strong total endorsement, complete endorsement. Kirk,
thank you. Oh man, we don't even have. All right, quick 2-minute take on Steelers training camp.
I hate that Mike Tomlin and Aaron Rodgers are friends. I do not like this. I do not like this storyline. I do not like that they jive together. That it seems like that is like the story right.
So you have not melted. You have not melted in your Rodgers skepticism.
No, it's going to be hard. Justin, there'll be 7-1, and I will still be like, we're on the precipice of a cliff.
Stop it. Dude, 4 tight ends on the field. That's what we're getting to look at. I love it. I'm going to Vegas in 2 days, and not only am I betting this preseason game, but I'm getting in action on futures for the North. I think the Steelers are going to win the North. I'm totally in.
Oh, you have so much more confidence than I do. Have fun in Vegas. Have fun at the preseason game. I look forward to dissecting this season with you.
I am such a sicko for preseason stuff or training camp stuff right now that I'm legit jacked to park myself in a bar in Vegas and watch Will Howard command this offense, the third string Steelers quarterback.
You are such a sicko, and that is a compliment. That is a big compliment.
A very, very, very sick man. Kirk Bado, thank you so much for joining us.
Justin, thanks for having me, sir. I'll see you later.
And that'll wrap it up for us today. Politics, written and hosted by me, Justin Robert Young, for Dog and Pony Show Audio in Austin, Texas. You can send me an email, theyoungamerican@gmail.com. Find, follow, and share video clips of the show. On TikTok, it's Justin R. Young. On X, it's Justin R. Young. And you can find all of our video, our shorts, our full epis. You want a full epi? You can head on over Politics on the YouTube. Shout out to our YouTube people. We love our YouTube people. Support me with a one-time donation. PayPal.me/payjury, PayJury. Venmo is Justin-Young-20. Cash App is PX3Cash. And you can send me anything you'd like in the mail. Post Office Box 153184, Austin, Texas 78715. Again, that is Post Office Box 153184, Austin, Texas 78715. You can always get our bonus content at TakePoliticsSeriously.com. Paying members get 2 bonus episodes each and every week. That's essentially $3 a week, or less than that if you go ahead and pick it up annually. $99 for the entire year. That's 150 episodes of PX3 for under $100. But it is our founding tier that gets your name read at the end of the podcast. Like these fine folks: Sonny Black, L3PO, Peepaw Scott, Middle-Aged Mike, Tom, Sarah Jeannie, Jeremy, Pro Idiot, Chiller Tomatoes, oh yeah, it's Adam, Neil, AB Puppy, Dr. Whiskey, Michael, Fat Tony's PJs from New York, Will, The Borge B, Matthew, Matt, Andrew, Edwin, Sam, Andrew, Phil, Edison, Devon, Paul, a dog named Checkers, Gloria Young, Jerry, Trucker, John, Berkeley, Stephen, and Zombie Dot. Princes, princesses, kings, and queens adorn that list. A huge thank you to the foundational tier. So by the time, for free listeners, this will be the last you hear me before I head out to Vegas. I will be at DEF CON. I know I got some InfoSec people that listen to this. But you'll be able to come on out and see me. If you're at DEF CON, come to the Hack 5 booth. I'll be there, hawking wares. There's only one person that can make me work a booth at a convention, and it's Darren Kitchen, who runs Hack 5. Because it's not pleasant, but I do it. I like doing it. I enjoy doing it. And by the way, if you're into InfoSec, if you're into the hacking, if you trust your techno-lust, then head on over to HAK5.org. One of the coolest things that I have ever seen is now available. It is the Wi-Fi Pineapple Pager. No BS. This thing is a classic form factor beeper that has like the alphanumeric screen on it, but instead of it just being all characters, it is a full ass computer. You can monitor Wi-Fi. You can run various different attacks. You can kick people off. It's amazing. I've been around I've seen this in development for, wow, geez. I mean, like over a year for sure. I mean, probably over 2 years from the first time that I saw schematics for it. But the Hack 5 team has really outdone themselves. I think this is going to be a massive seller. I think you're going to see this any and everywhere. So go ahead. You can get your pre-order in now. And based on what I heard, like the first 3 hours were, you're probably going to want to get your pre-order in now, just as soon as you hear this, because they're selling. Anyway, you can come onto the booth. Come on to the booth. I'll show you it. Just say, hey, I'm a PX3 fan. Okay. Till next time. This is your old pal, Justin Robert Young. Oh, Friday's episode. Tom Merritt's on the show and Michael Cohen's on the show. And we're going to have them on the same damn time. We're going to talk about the future of fundraising and tech in politics. These two have never met, but they're excited to meet live on the show. Great convo, good times. Till next time, this is your old pal, Justin Robert Young, saying some shows talk about politics, others talk about politics, still more discuss politics, but this is the only show that dares discuss. Three.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Dog and Pony Show audio.